where military actions continue and civilians have to solve their problems on their own, and there are shellings, but life continues and the majority of people returned home, schools and enterprises work. And today we have a video from Novatroitsk village that is at front line, and there is a checkpoint, and we are going to speak about peaceful life with the head of Department of Fund of Development of Mariupol, that is in the studio of Ukraine Crisis Media Center in Mariupol. Irina Perkova is in the studio of Mariupol. And how do you hear us? Do you hear us well? Yes. So you are given the floor, Irina. Maybe first we should watch the video, please. Novatroitsk is 20 kilometers from Donetsk. This is the last village that is under control of Ukraine in this part of front line, and we spoke with Tatiana. She is a psychologist at school and also with the head of school, who is also the deputy of village council. Today we have about 8,000 people in the village. There are 2 schools, 3 kindergartens. And on the 21st of September, the agreements were made. The situation changed. The Ukraine's Defenders Day, we had troubles at night. There were shellings throughout the night. So now the situation is calmer, but small arms are used daily. So a year ago, a family died, and sometimes some shells drop here, just here in the village. The village part where second school is situated, there were some shellings, and I am, as a deputy of local council, I attend the meeting, and I know that more than 100 people suffered. Their housings was damaged, their vehicles were damaged, some property. And a year ago, a mine blew up and destroyed the roof of a house, and everyone who was in the house died, including a child. But in the majority of cases, houses got damaged. That's why village council provides assistance, and we allocate about 1,000 per house for those people who sustain these losses. Also, village councils work with different funds, and they provide construction materials, and village council deal with these matters. And what are the major changes that were caused by war in your village? So a lot of people, they are in the situation. You should understand this. We have a checkpoint here. The prices went up in shops and in the market because people who come from that side, from DPR, they come here to get pension, and there are queues in the banks, and people cannot get their salaries timely. They cannot pay for services also on time. And prices went up so high, I can't even tell you, because people who came here for 1 or 2 days, they buy food in batch, and they earn from this, and they take a lot of money from the ATMs, and our people cannot get their money because of this, and the situation becomes better, and children at school, they feel comfortable. Of course, in the beginning, parents came and said, "What would you do if shelling start?" They said that there is no basement, and I said, "We will be trying to save them. We will bring children to adjacent buildings, and there are special rooms that are properly lit, and there is water provided also." We have 320 children, and comparing with the start of previous academic year and this one, children return to their life. I can compare the situation, what happened during this time. So children try to distract themselves from the situation. They are real patriots. They believe that everything will be okay. And in our school, we have 12 IDPs, and children, they live here with their parents, and everyone feels comfortable. We carry out work with every child individually. We also carry out work with their parents. Did they really join the community? Yes. All the families went to their relatives, and they were accepted by class. When we have some activities, they join the activities. So what about the quarrels among children? Do you deal with these issues? No, we don't have such conflicts. Thank you very much. We watched your video, and we got information about what is going on in Novatroitske village, and now you're given the floor. Maybe you can provide some explanations. Novatroitske village, you heard that there is about 8,000 people, and of course Mariupol is much bigger. We have 500,000, and we have more than 100,000 IDPs. And the problems are the same, I believe, but on a bigger scale. And Ulyana is a person who, from the start of this conflict, deals with the issues of IDPs and vulnerable categories of population. Please tell us about the start of the situation when people started to come here, and what load was on the social sphere, and what was done then, and what you are doing now, and what work is done, and what activities are ongoing. Could you please tell us about it? Yes, this is really important topic of integration of these people into society. And in 2014, I remember this, on the 23rd of July, our social service and a civil society organization and city council, we decided that we are a city that will accept those people who came from occupied territories, and we will do everything possible in order that these people feel comfortable here. And then no one understood that these people who came here, we didn't know what war means, and we believed that this is for several weeks that the situation would stop, and a lot of resources, human resources, were provided. Many volunteers and representatives of NGOs joined, and social services got involved, and we were first to accept people, and we provided them with essentials and housing, and we believe that in the future there should be some investor that would help people to deal with their problems, because we understood that these people won't go back to the territory because there is no housing. And we considered it narrowly. We believe that this is for several months, and there won't be big problems further. But unfortunately, this period lasts, and a lot of issues remain unsolved, especially concerning housing. And a lot of unsolved issues with employment, healthcare, and this is not connected with the fact that cities do not want to provide this. It is because those resources that go from the budget, they do not go back to Mariupol for the needs of IDPs. Or the system to provide assistance, it is financed by local budget, and there is no increase in budget to provide more services. And we understand that all big centers, medical centers, they were in Donetsk and they are lost for us. And the citizens who live near Mariupol, they come to Mariupol to get medical assistance, and this is one of the problems. And now there is low income of people. They spend additional resources of their families for housing, and they are left with little money for medical treatment and other essential things. And many of the problems that we faced in 2014, we have them at the moment. And about adaptation, people got used that they should change their life, that they won't go back and they will be here, or they will go in other cities of Ukraine. So we are starting to speak about integration, because people who went from occupied territory, they become the members of communities, and for many this is the key issue. They should feel as real members of Mariupol community, otherwise they won't be able to move forward. And what should be done for them to feel really the members of the community? We carried out a City of Solidarity project supported by UN and together with the City Council, and we analyzed what Mariupol did in order to become a city of solidarity. I don't use the term IDP because this term was discriminatory. And I believe that these are residents of Mariupol, maybe by not their own will, maybe they live here temporarily, but they are the residents of Mariupol. And we should help these new residents, and we spoke about healthcare, housing, and also the revival of the territory. And there is such well practice. Moldova and Georgia has this experience. This when after military conflict, the government considers the integration of people and territories in order that the people felt that they are the part of the country, the part of the nation. And if we are speaking about Ukraine, so this is Ukraine and the territories of Lugansk and Donetsk regions. We know that we have the EU ministry and a lot of other bodies, and what we are lacking for integration is a strategy to look forward. And our representatives were in Georgia. They studied the experience of working with children and people who suffered from traumas of war, and also they considered the matters how the government built their work with the population who suffered, and we liked these ideas. We saw this experience that first they did, when the family got housing, they feel more stable and they feel that they have some roots and they can move forward.
For example, in Georgia, that was a financial assistance that covered about 50% of cost of housing. The government was giving 50% of the mortgage. In Moldova, the government got a loan from the European Union, and then they were paying off that loan and they provided housing for certain number of families. In Ukraine, once we are talking about people who moved from occupied territories, that's not the number that we had there, but much more talking about providing houses. The amounts should be much higher, but not all families really need housing badly. We can start with families who are in the most difficult situation, those who can participate in the mortgage program. But if people who arrived from occupied territories, if they would understand that there is such program of support, it would have been much easier. And the program of integration means what support people can get. In Mariupol, we tried to create such platforms which we called the centers for family supports, and now we'll create one more platform which will be in the district, which is one of the most difficult districts because many people there hear shellings, and some of them suffer from these shellings. So we want to create this secure platform together with our partners, and we know that many organizations of civil society are also trying to create such space where a person could come with any request and at least have a chance to talk, to discuss the problems. How does the UCMC react? Many work on integration, but nevertheless, the society is divided. There are people who lived in this city, and there are people who are IDPs. I don't feel that there is some hatred, but on the other hand, I understand that that's iceberg, and there's something underwater. You have more experience. You help these people. How does Mariupol react to IDPs? How has the society changed? You are right, Ira. Mariupol is somewhat different from other cities of Ukraine. We were in Lviv and Kyiv and Kharkiv. We saw what are the difficulties there. In Mariupol, we don't have them because we are very close to Donetsk and Lugansk, and we have many relative contacts. All those who moved to Mariupol, they moved to someone, to relatives, friends, acquaintances, if it's not family relations, but it's about friendly relations. And from the beginning, Mariupol received people who came from the zone of military activities as those who need assistance of their neighbors. And that is quite important. I think about the first days when we had this massive inflow of IDPs to Mariupol, how local citizens reacted. Many local citizens would come to different social services and they would bring clothes, some food products. They would give their housing. There were two categories of people, those who were renting out their apartments and were charging huge amounts for that, and there were those who would move to their relatives and would provide the housing for IDPs. In Mariupol, there's no such an attitude of non-accepting those who arrived from occupied territories. For people in Mariupol, that means that they understand that such people need support, and the situation is somewhat different here. There's a certain conflict which is not related directly to that. It's related to the fact that the standard of life has fallen down, and there are many programs, humanitarian programs, which were targeted towards IDPs, but they were not targeted towards local population. We know how much the standard of life dropped, and people thought that, well, it's difficult for them, they would also need some support. Many families are left without work, without means for existence. And we discuss it with the humanitarian missions, and we say that the programs are to be oriented towards the whole population of Mariupol, so that there's no reason for the internal conflict, no fighting for resources. The system of education, for example, is quite loyal, and we didn't have difficulties with putting a child into school or preschool facility, but the medicine, it's a problem. And what about psychological condition of people? Anna Troitskaya, the psychologist who I talked to, she said that there's no psychological trauma. All got adapted and everything's normal. Is that the case or not? Do you believe that people need psychological assistance? Some specialists are saying that we don't have the post-trauma syndrome because the trauma hasn't finished. When the process is completed, then many people will start feeling the consequences. I wouldn't say that this is correct, especially children on the territory which is close to the line of contact. They do suffer. I believe that you were in such settlements, you saw these people. We were in Berdyansk, in Solkin, and it was quite sobering when you think that everything's fine, it's quiet, there are no shellings, but then you talk to people, you understand it's very difficult for them. Ulyana, Irina, sorry, the time of our program is coming to an end. I have several questions left. I would like to go back to Novotroitsk, where there was an information that there were big lines for pensions. Did you have a program on expanding banking services like it was in Stanitsa Luganska? They had a problem with the IDPs who could not get their money, and they organized some mobile modules where the banks were resolving this problem for consumers, for clients. And the second, I would like to ask, because of this big increase of the number of IDPs, how are you resolving that situation in schools and nursery schools? And also the question about environment, ecology. Banks, where people are getting cash,
банківські. І ще одне запитання.
And one more question. Okay, let's one by one. We did have a mobile point of a shut bank. Some companies take people there in organized way, but in Novotroitsk, many people go there. In Mariupol, there is such a problem because all the departments of a shut bank, every day the lines are huge there. There are lines even in the street. And they don't always have cash. Second, schools and nurseries, what's with them? I mean, the population, the increased, did it affect the places in schools and the kindergartens? We monitored this situation. About 3,000 children arrived who went to kindergartens and schools of Mariupol. We had places, we asked the Department of Education. There was no big problem with that, especially because some of Mariupol children, they went to other towns as IDPs. There was no big problem, and we are asking the Department of Education whether there are places there. In Mariupol, there are several kindergartens, at least one which was opened. And one more question, environment, ecology. Mariupol has always been different from other cities because there was a difficult situation within ecology. What about the environmental control now? What's happening in this respect? This is a difficult question. Probably we will not be able to answer that. We know that Mariupol organizations are very active and they're controlling the situation. And they are requesting for monitoring of the air, condition of air. There was recently a dialogue between companies and NGOs, and it continues. And there's a big NGO. This is an important issue for Mariupol, but we will not be able to answer you more specifically. Now in the companies, no one will be controlling it, no one will be imposing big fines, because now, well, if anything happens, then there will be a collapse in the city. So there is the problem, environmental, but it's not controlled, it's monitored. Okay, clear. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ulyana. Thank you, Irina, for very full information. Thank you. And if there are questions in the audience, no questions, and we don't have time left, so thank you, Ulyana, for coming to us, and thank you, Irina Perkova, for a wonderful report from Mariupol. And by that we complete our interview. Thank you. See you next Tuesday.